Hello friends, followers and channel members, welcome to this very special video in Microsoft Flight Simulator following the release of Sim Update number 5, or if you are an Xbox player, the release of Microsoft Flight Simulator to Xbox. We've now upgraded in the PC world to version 1.18.13.0 and I'm going to be taking you through every step of this new sim update. We're going to be looking at the new aircraft, new effects, new controls, mods that have been broken and ultimately how to fix them. And essentially this video is all about trying to get the best out of sim update number 5 for you. So if you have had problems since you have upgraded, or if you haven't even upgraded yet, stay tuned and I'm going to show you the best way to hopefully have an error-free upgrade to the new sim update number 5 version. And we'll also have a look, as I said, at fixing some things that may be broken for you. A reminder, if you haven't yet updated, please make sure that you have removed everything from your community folder before you begin the update. It is quite important as it can cause conflicts with the new stuff that is downloaded. However, that is not to say that if you have updated and you didn't remove stuff from your community folder, it's not the end of the world. All you'll need to do is close the simulator down, empty your community folder, relaunch the simulator so that it can load once at least completely fresh, and that is very, very important. The first time that you should run the simulator, there shouldn't be anything in the community folder. That should be nice and empty. Once you have performed the update, the first thing you're going to have to do then is go to your content manager, because you will see that there are then plenty of packages, depending on what you already had previously installed, will need updating. So this will add however long, depending on how many updates you have got. As you can see here, I've got quite a few more gig, so make sure these are downloaded and installed, so again you're getting the best optimization out of this brand new update. Once that is all done, we can then move on to the next thing you must do, which is the rolling cache. So if you do use the rolling cache, which I do as a streamer, I like to use less bandwidth on downloading stuff for the flight simulator, because obviously I'm streaming. You will need to refresh this. To do this, go to options and the general options, and then when you go to data, scroll down to the very bottom here and you will see the rolling cache options. Now obviously from your flying prior to the update, this will have old data in it now. You're going to have to delete this data, but if you just double check, I've got a cache limit of 200 gigabytes, which will all need re-downloading again. The moment I hit delete, it will start that download process. That is going to take a long time. So just for quickness, if you turn off the rolling cache like this and then press delete, you can then do this safely, because it will not download everything that it previously had stored until you turn the rolling cache back on again. So go ahead and do that, because you don't want to have old data with the new data. This can cause conflict. So if I now just go ahead and press delete, I can click OK, safe in the knowledge that it is not going to start a 200 gigabyte download again. So back to the new looking user interface, you can see things have changed around a little bit now. So we've got the discovery flights top left, we've got activities as well, and as always happens when we get a sim update, or indeed a world update, we get new landing challenges, we get new bush trips. So these are kind of cool to try out. The bush trips, you have to work your way through those, so starting at number 1, working all the way through. The discovery flights then, these are quite new, and we're going to take a little bit more of an in-depth look at these as we get through the video. But you can see there's some core content ones, and then a little bit further below you can see there are other discovery flights, but they rely on you having the world updates installed, and of course there in your package content manager you can get those all for free as well from previous updates. If you haven't got those installed yet, go and check out the content manager for that. Also available for download there in the content manager is the Orbis Flight Eye Hospital. Now you can go ahead and download this. It is basically a DC-10 that has been turned into a hospital with wings. Don't get too excited. Sadly, you cannot yet fly this aircraft. It might be kind of cool if a modder at some point comes along and makes this aircraft flyable. That'd be that'd be something else, wouldn't it? But you can go in and have a very detailed look around this aircraft. But sadly, no, you can't fly this one just yet. If we go to the world map, then one of the first things you're going to find when you zoom in is a massive improvement in the way that we now have Bing satellite data overlaid on our world map. And I'm just scrolling here as I was doing this quite early in the morning, and I've got live time set, so I wanted to go somewhere where there was daylight, so why not scroll all the way down to Australia. And if we zoom in now, looking around Brisbane International Airport, the closer we get, it downloads the data, and you can see we have now got satellite imagery. And really great is the fact that you can now pick your parking stands a lot easier. You can see which is going to be the cargo ramp, the general aviation ramps, and of course the main terminal, so you can go in and literally see how these all line up with the jetways, and I think that is absolutely fantastic. If we just zip on over now to Europe and some UK airports, which I know a little bit better, I'm going to scroll down to my local busiest international airport, which, as many of you will know, is Manchester, and you can see yet again how they've got the satellite imagery overlaid with all the gates. And this is actually the default Manchester at the moment, because remember, my community folder is completely empty. I've not put anything back in just yet. We're going to do that in a little bit, and you can see all the parking gates line up really nicely. So this is the first major thing that many of you are going to notice, this satellite imagery on the world map, and that is going to make selecting your parking positions so much easier. And of course, if you just want to do a random flight, you can see all of the different areas much more clearly now. So I know quite a lot of people just like to start somewhere in the sky over a popular area. Well, now there's no more guesswork, because you can even see we've got the names of places. We've got Sheffield, Derby, and Leicester, Coventry. All the main towns and cities are also there. And of course, if you zoom in, all the points of interest match up quite nicely with the satellite data as well. Moving on then to the aircraft selection screen, you'll now notice that you select your aircraft by scrolling vertically as opposed to horizontally. This is no doubt being done to make things a little bit easier for those of you that are playing the simulator on Xbox. Here you'll find a couple of new aircraft, or aircraft with floats. So we've now got the Cessna 172. The X-Cub has also got floats as well. We've also got the Shock Ultra, which is a nice new addition. And there's one of the aircraft up here as well. There's the X-Cub with skis for if you fancy some Alaskan flying. Great for obviously zipping through on a snow-laden mountain, so that's quite nice. So let's go in now and take a look at doing our first flight following World Update number 5, and I'm quite curious to see just how my sort of mid-spec PC will benefit from this new update. So I'm going to come and set the first flight up over Manhattan. Obviously New York, Manhattan seems to be a kind of a benchmark that a lot of people in Flight Simulator use to gauge how well their system is dealing with the simulator. It's a photogrammic area. There's lots of buildings, lots of objects, lots of things that the computer has to try and render. So this is as good a place as any to set it up. Now, which aircraft can we use? We can select anything. I think the Icon 5 just to begin with, just because it's just nice and basic, and we can just leave that to fly away. But I'm going to get the developer mode on as well in a little moment, and we'll see what these frame rates are doing. Okay, so we've now loaded in, and one of the things that I noticed straight away is the loading time. Oh boy, this is so much faster. So I'm going to go and pop on the developer mode, so that then I can turn the frame rate counter on just to see how that's doing. But just while I'm doing that, yeah, the overall loading time just seemed to happen, well, not instantly, but it took a few seconds as opposed to a few minutes. That is fantastic for someone like me when I'm creating videos like this and wants to jump from scene to scene. You're really going to find that is a massive improvement. Now, ordinarily, when I'm flying, I would limit my GPU to around 35. 35 is absolutely fine, but I've taken that limit off just for this. I haven't changed any of my settings, but then again, I don't normally fly low level over Manhattan either. So I was quite excited to see that. I was getting a nice steady between 30 and 40 FPS because, as I say, this isn't the kind of flying I normally do, or certainly not on stream, but it all seemed to be working really, really nice. And you can see me just playing around here, and as I'm panning around, those frame rates drop, but anything above 25 realistically in a flight simulator is going to give you nice smooth performance. Many people like to see 60 FPS, but we have to be realistic. This isn't a shoot 'em up. You don't need 60 FPS in a simulator. Everything is actually moving really rather slowly in relation to your aircraft. So with that performance upgrade in mind, I've decided I'm going to come in and play with these settings a little bit. So at the moment I've got custom settings, and I didn't want to touch these until I'd seen how it was running. I've now moved to high end, so we're going to go ahead and save that and see what happens. And as we load back in, instantly you can almost see, just setting that high end settings, the frame rates have jumped even more. So I'm not sure what I had optimized before. Clearly it wasn't as optimized as I thought for the settings. But this is fantastic. This is all set to the default high end. So I tell you what, well, let's go in and let's knock it up even further. Let's be brave. Let's go to the Ultra. Now, I'm not expecting great results with this. So let's go and set that. Hit apply. And let's see what happens here. So already you can see those frame rates have dropped for 26, 27, occasionally 28. It's certainly workable, as I said a few moments ago. 25 frames, more than happy with. But just in terms of general smoothness, I think I can go back, pull out the high settings, and be very, very happy with how that all looks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come sort of off this, and I will then just optimize those a little bit more, because there are some things that I need for my airliner flying that you don't need for GA flying. So I've gone in now and tweaked things a little bit more, and I'll put some more details on our Discord server if anyone wants to go ahead and join that. And we're now over London. You can see that the frame rate's still holding around 28, occasionally 29. That's absolutely fine. But as we know, London, again, a little bit like Manhattan, there is lots of detail that the simulator is having to load. I'll be honest with you, I thought when flying just here in these images that London didn't actually look as good as I previously remembered it prior to the update. Now, that might just be me, but I'd be very interested to know your thoughts down in the comments. Have you noticed if there has been any sort of downscaling of things to maybe optimize it for Xbox? Microsoft Flight Simulator and Azobo apparently have said that this is not the case, and that has not happened. Everything exactly the same. It's just better optimization. But I am very curious to hear your thoughts. So here you are, we can see we are in the Cessna 172, which now has floats. I thought we're better to try the new water features than the River Thames. We can go all James Bond with this. Trying to land and control the aircraft whilst in the spotlight camera isn't the easiest, and certainly not something I've had lots of practice with, so I apologise for the rather bumpy landing that is about to come up, but ultimately I just wanted to see what sort of water effects we got here. I am very pleased to say that I think the overall effect of the water textures is still looking fantastic, just as it has done since the day the simulator released. And I know how difficult it is for computer processors and graphics cards to render that, so well done, Azobo. So here we go, let's try and touch this aircraft down. That looks far too fast. I'm probably going to bounce a little bit. Oh boy, a little bit of disappointment there that I don't see loads of splashing going on, but you can see a little bit of water wake just starting each time I touch down, and then as we slowly come to a halt, we're going to see that water wake begin. There it is. At first glance, I wasn't too impressed with this, to be honest. I thought it could be done a little bit better, but then as we started to slow down, I actually had another look, and as you can see, if I just move the camera around here in a moment and the aircraft becomes stationary, it looks a lot better. So maybe I'm expecting too much, but actually I don't think that looks too bad at all. Either way, it's a vast improvement on what we had before, which was essentially nothing. One of the other effects that have been added with regards to water is wet runways, and the effects that the wheels on wet runways have. We should now have spray from aircraft as we either roll down for takeoff or land on the wet runways. One of the things I did notice straight away though was just check out the little reflection in the standing water on the runway here of the Boeing text. Now I don't know if that's just because I've been playing with my settings a little bit since World Update number 5 hit, and we've got better reflections now, but I certainly never saw anything like that before. So the fact that I can push the PC a little further to get stuff like this is really impressive. As you can see, I've set the weather to, well, it's raining, it's pretty poor. I want to check out the water effects, but I'm also at Charles de Gaulle Airport, which for those of you who may remember from a previous World Update, or I can't actually call it, maybe in a sim update, Charles de Gaulle was a terrible airport to try and fly. The frame rates were ridiculous. So to add in bad weather as well, it's really rather nice to see that that's all working rather nicely. And as you can see, rolling down this wet runway, we get the water spray, which I think actually does look really good. I'm far more impressed with that than I am with the water wake textures, which personally for me, that's the right way around. I don't land on water that often, and if I have, it usually means something's gone wrong. But that looks really nice, and again, good frame rate optimization of France Charles de Gaulle. So well done. Really do like that. If you want to know just how much the weather can affect your frame rates in the simulator, then if we just jump back to Manhattan, which is where I was kind of doing the bench test, we can see this is set to, I think this is live weather, which thankfully is quite a nice day at this moment in time. But if we go to the weather page, check out the frame rates top right hand corner as I knock the live weather off, and we're going to set some pretty terrible weather now just to see what happens there. So live weather, this is now clear skies, you're getting a few frame rates, but then if we set it to rain, you can see there's a little bit of a stutter, but this is how much the rain really does affect, and the clouds and the textures really do affect things. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure how badly it affected them prior to the update, but you can see that you are potentially, if you've got a really low end system, going to struggle if you've got low frame rates caused by bad weather. So just something to be aware of. With the release of the simulator on Xbox then, a new pilot assist option has been added, which will obviously make flying much easier for those of you that are new to the simulator. And what this little feature does, it is quite neat, is you can tell sort of like your artificial co-pilot where it is you want to fly. So obviously you can see here I'm just flying randomly somewhere over in the United States. If we go to the flight assistant, which is new on the menu, and select that, you then get a list of interesting places around you. Now at the moment I've got all of these turned off just because otherwise it interferes with the general day-to-day flying that I do. So if we flick between airports, cities, landmarks, if there are any nearby, or fauna, if there's any of those nearby, there weren't. But if I want to select, say, West Glen Falls or Quanith, what else have we got? Kingsbury or Hudson Falls. If I select Hudson Falls as a destination, it will display the direction, and with that little arrow you can see there just on the left of the screen, you can then turn on AI piloting. Now in doing that, and to make sure you turn on the anti-stall protection and the auto trim, etc., you can turn those on, and now suddenly you have got the pilot taking over for you. This isn't advanced enough to be able to sort of land your aircraft, or not that I've had any experience with, but it does mean that you can just select a destination, sit back, relax, and let somebody else do all the work whilst you enjoy the rather nice scenic views. As we let our AI pilot guide us over to Hudson Falls then. If we jump back inside the cockpit for a moment, one of the first things that many users used to flying the aircrafts on Microsoft Flight Simulator on the PC have noticed is that as you hover your cursor over different switches and things, we're getting a sort of tips screen, which really is not what you want if you're a more experienced pilot. It breaks the immersion, and we need to know how to get rid of that. It's actually really rather simple. So if you want to get rid of that, then hit the escape key, and what you're looking for is found under the general options. Then go to accessibility, and here you're looking for the cockpit interaction system. You'll notice by default it is set to lock, and you want to change that to legacy. Make sure that's on legacy if you want to remove all those tips. You can also then go down and turn off the menu tool tips, instrument name tool tips, and basically if you're like me and you don't particularly want all of this information on screen, just turn everything off. You'll then be able to get back into your aircraft after hitting fly and save, and you'll be back flying again without all of those interactions. You also need to do this as well if you want to be flying the Airbus, just as it affects the sort of push and pull dials that you get on the autopilot screen, the FCU up there as well. If, like me, you want to continue with the immersion of not having any point of interest markers on, make sure you can turn these off. That is found under the assistance options. Just go through and make sure all of those are turned off. You can see that there's one left turned on just here, so I'm going to go down there and get rid of that. Apply and save, and then we can head back into the flight deck and continue to enjoy our flight, courtesy of our AI pilot. Now, as we approached our destination of Hudson Falls, I was kind of interested to see exactly what our AI pilot would do when we reached our destination. In my mind, I envisaged one of two things. I presumed that we would either just continue flying in a straight line once we'd reached our targeted waypoint, or we'd kind of enter a little bit of a holding pattern and just start to circle. Well, that is exactly what appeared to happen. Looks like we're going to enter a nice holding pattern. But at this point, I started to realize that as our AI pilot turns, well, in these non-auto trimmable aircraft, such as the Airbus A320, you also need to keep that nose up a little bit, and it appears that our AI pilot may need to go back to flight school, as I sat there and watched him cause havoc on a small street in Hudson Falls. Oh dear. Well, my apologies to the community of Hudson Falls. So with our AI pilot headed back to flight school, I wanted to check out these discovery flights. As I alluded to earlier, you've got the core content, which anyone can fly using the default installation, but if you want to do some of those a little bit further down, you need to have downloaded certain world updates. So let's just go ahead and pick one and see how these work. So we're going to go for Bora Bora, very nice part of the world, and that picture in particular looks rather stunning. So we hit fly now, and I'm quite interested to show you the loading time of this. Normally this would take quite a while to load, even though there's not that much scenery here, but you can see that we're all ready. I didn't even time that, but that was maybe 10 seconds or so. I think that is an absolutely stunning thing that the Azobo team have done. What optimization. So here we are, we've got nice views, and you can of course go back to using your AI pilot. I keep calling it an AI pilot, it's not, of course, it's a flight assistant. Once again, you can select where you want to fly to, and you can turn them on. And if I just turn the volume up as well, these actually come with rather nice soothing background music. I haven't discovered a way to turn that off. I'm sure there is a way if you prefer not to have that, but all of these discovery flights you can leave the AI pilot to do as you wish, taking you on a nice scenic tour of different places, and you can just leave that playing in the background, which I think is quite nice, particularly if you're new to the simulator, watching and flying this on Xbox for the first time. It'll give you a great idea of the sort of scenery and different places of the world that you can enjoy. So now we've tested out some of the new things that the sim update number 5 has brought. It's time to see if the old things that we were used to using are still available. Now the FlyByWire team have already been on this and from the word go. Make sure you download the latest developer build of the Airbus A320NX. Get that downloaded because this has been optimized for use in Microsoft Flight Simulator after World Update number 5. So make sure you do go ahead and use the installer to do that. So after that was downloaded, I relaunched the Flight Simulator only with the A320NX from FlyByWire in my community folder, nothing else. And the first time I tried to spawn into an airport in the simulator, my simulator actually crashed, obviously with no explanation, just crashed the desktop, which I thought was very strange considering I had nothing else in the community folder. I tried a second time and it worked fine, which seemed just very odd. Maybe it didn't like the first initialization of the new mod, but after that all seemed to work very well. One of the things that then I found is I jumped into the flight deck. The moment you loaded the aircraft and hit the fly now button, got into the flight deck, suddenly the aircraft started powering itself up, the pushback tug became connected, the engines started firing up, and I hadn't done a single thing. It wasn't down to me, and I also had no AI assistance turned on either. So I chatted with the developers from FlyByWire and they said that there is a batch file that you can download and run which basically just clears all your settings. Thankfully it doesn't clear absolutely everything, so all your detent settings should still be there. But if you need to get hold of that because you're having the same problem that I was, then head over to the FlyByWire Discord server and have a check on there because that file seems to have sorted everything out for me. I'm also just checking here that Pushback Helper works, and you can see it does, getting all of the GPU and the luggage and catering working as expected. The reason I was testing Pushback Helper and not the Toolbar Pushback app, which you normally see me use, is because at the time of filming this, the Toolbar Pushback app wasn't compatible with the sim update number 5. I have since found out that it is, so you can now go back to flightsim.to and get the latest version of the Toolbar Pushback and get that installed into your community folder, and that should work as before. Anyway, let's hop on board and check that everything is still working as it should. So a nice cold and dark cockpit, which was not what I was getting prior to running that batch file. So I just want to go through and turn a few things on. I'm not going to do a full setup. I just want to make sure that all the basics are working. So as you can see, I've got the fly pad just here. Let's just make sure that we can get all our information from SimBrief, and there it is, a nice short flight from Liverpool down to London Heathrow. That appears to be working okay, and we've got all the information. We've also got our operational flight plan from SimBrief loaded in, so nothing there seems to be affected, which is really neat because we use this every live stream we do. That sim as well, information has been shown. I obviously need to re-authenticate my Navigraph subscription for that, but that isn't anything new. But it looks like as we go through, everything is working exactly as we have expected. So make sure you get the latest dev build of the FlyByWire mod and check out the FlyByWire Discord if you're having problems, so you can run that batch file, which should reset all of the settings to make sure that it is compatible now with the Flight Simulator sim update number 5. So after I'd got the new dev version of the A320NX from FlyByWire installed and downloaded, I decided to repopulate my community folder with all of the add-ons and mods that I had used previously. Now, as you can see here, this was going to be a bit of a moment of truth. I want to see what London Gatwick is like. This is the free version of London Gatwick available from flightsim.to. I had read somewhere that this didn't actually work. However, I haven't updated it or anything. I don't even think it has been updated since sim update number 5 landed. But as you can see, it was all working perfectly, and much to my relief, my channel livery, the EasyJet Sim Pilot, livery working on the FlyByWire A320. So that is all working rather nicely. Now I do know at the moment that some of the mods do now need updating, things like the CRJ and the DC6 from Aerosoft and PMDG respectively. You need to make sure you go and re-download their updated versions before you put those back in, because they will not work. The old versions will not work. They have updated those so that they work with the new version of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Remember, the version you're looking for is version 1.18.13.0, and all of that should work. So one thing I had left to test, and that is how well the aircraft flies. I haven't actually flown the A320 since the update landed, and I thought what better place to really put it to the test than a rather wet and stormy landing in London Gatwick, which is very high on frame rate, so that's going to be very, very intense. Obviously quite a high impact scenery here of London Gatwick, and we'll do an auto land as well. So I've gone ahead and set this up, and you can see I've also turned the frame rate counter on as well, just because out of curiosity I wanted to see how well the update had optimized an approach such as this. And as you can see, I'm quite happy with what we're getting there. We've got autopilot 1 and 2 on. We've got no decision height set, so it's going to be a full Cat 3 auto land, and I'm just going to leave the aircraft to go ahead and do this. As you can see, flicking between wing views seems a little bit smoother. Bear in mind that I really was throwing everything at it at the moment. So we're near London, we're near the highly complex Gatwick Airport mod, and I did have a small little stutter earlier on when I was messing with this. It kind of went over to one of my wing views, froze for a good minute, it seemed, maybe a little bit more, and I thought, but eventually the program came round, it caught up, and it worked absolutely fine. So I think patience is the name of the game there. But yeah, as you can see, a few minor stutters as we're flipping between camera views, but that's got to be expected when you've got the aircraft set up, a highly complex aircraft, highly complex scenery, and we've already discussed a little bit earlier on in the video how the weather can really affect that. As we get closer and closer to the ground, you can see the frame rates not struggling, but certainly they are dipping, but again, it's not something that I would perhaps be even aware of too much if I hadn't got the counter turned on. I'm still above 25, which is absolutely fine for me. So let's go ahead and see how this aircraft touches down. Beautiful reflection effects, not quite on the center line, but never mind. And as we touch down, there's that water spray that we was hoping for. All in all, a rather nice update from Azobo this time round. It's also worth pointing out that there is a small problem following this update if you are flying on VATSIM or ICAO or any other ATC online platforms, and even with the default ATC, in that the transponder of your aircraft is not accurately transmitting the altitude that your aircraft is flying at. It's giving two different altitudes. I'm not going to get bogged down into the reasons behind this, but the Azobo team are aware of this and they're trying to fix that ASAP. But it is worth noting, if you are flying online, that the altitude that you are sending to your air traffic controllers will not be the altitude that you are seeing on your display. If you have had trouble installing this update, or you've had problems since the update, please do leave a comment down below. I would be very interested to know what issues you're having, and if you have had an issue, how you've managed to resolve them, even if you have managed to resolve them. If you haven't, please do join our Discord server as well. There's a link in the video description. A lot of great guys on there, fantastic community, and I'm sure that they, if not myself, will be able to help you with any issues you may have had. The biggest issue that I've been made aware of so far is there have been a lot more crash to desktops since the update launched. And all I can say to that is make sure you launch with an empty community folder to begin with, and then one by one you're going to have to put those add-ons back in, because I guarantee one of those add-ons is going to be the cause for your crash to desktops. If you can work that out, work out which one it is that's causing that, then hopefully you should have a nice simulator to play with, and overall a much better experience with far greater frame rates than you had before. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you found this video both useful and entertaining. If you have, please remember to hit the subscribe button and give the video a like. It would be great if you could let me know in the comments down below what problems you've encountered, or if you've just seen a massive performance boost following the update. I've seen lots of good, I've seen lots of bad, and it is really down to you guys to let me know how you found that. So I really do look forward to hearing from you on how that has gone. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I shall see you for a live stream very, very soon. Bye bye for now.